Anthropomorphic robots are widely used as servants for various public duties in 2035. They are programmed with the 3 laws of robotics directives: never hurt a human or allow a human to harm it, always obey humans unless doing so violates the first law, and always preserve its own existence unless doing so violates the first or second laws. Del Spooner, Will Smith, is a Chicago police investigator sent to investigate the death of Dr. Alfred Lanning, James Cromwell, the co-founder and chief roboticist of US Robotics, USR, who passing away after falling 50 floors from his office. His death is considered a suicide because his office was shut from the inside and he was alone, but Spooner argues otherwise because he knew Lanning closely. He also discovers a small holographic projector that tells him the real question is why he would commit suicide. He interrogates staff members at USR, including the other co-founder and CEO Lawrence Robertson and the supercomputer VIKI, with the help of robo-psychologist Susan Calvin. Spooner examines Lanning's office and finds that a man of Lanning's age could not have smashed the security window. Inside the office, he discovers a copy of Hansel and Gretel, as well as a prototype of a new Nestor Class 5, NS5, model, which flees and rejects Spooner's command to stand down, even knocking out his pistol, in violation of both the first and second laws. With no other options, he and Calvin drive to the Nestor Class plant, where all 1000 NS5 robots are manufactured automatically. Calvin examines the data logs from the previous shipment and discovers that 1001 NS5s were produced, indicating that the rogue one from the office was created on purpose. When they arrive in a large room full of robots, Spooner takes an aggressive approach, draws his gun, and demands everyone to stand down to see which one will breach the second law to prevent him from shooting it. He spots the rogue robot moving slightly in the line and follows the robot, who subdues him. The robot attempts to flee, but the Chicago SWAT team arrests it. The robot refuses to reply, but insists on being called Sonny, and when Spooner irritates him, he displays frustration, awareness, and the ability to dream, which confuses Spooner and leads him to question the robot's true nature. Lt. John Bergen debriefs Spooner and advises him to drop the investigation since Robertson wants the robot sent to the USR headquarters for demolition, but this simply encourages Spooner's interest in Lanning's death and the robot onward. Spooner returns to Lanning's house in search of more details regarding his relationship with USR, where he discovers a decommissioned robot scheduled to demolish the house at 8 a.m. the next morning. He examines the house and discovers a video of Lanning, who claims that there are definitely ghosts in the machines, that robots can grow to possess sentience, and that robots will have secrets and dreams one day. As he examines the house, he sees a sensor strip similar to the one in the USR building, and the robot unexpectedly adjusts the schedule from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., allowing it to demolish the house while Spooner is still inside, but he manages to escape. Soon after, Spooner visits Calvin and informs her of his suspicions, which she finds absurd as she questions the ability of robots to be hostile, while Spooner argues about her over the possibility of robots being better than humans, showing how much Spooner dislikes robots and their cold, rational behavior, which Calvin, who is an introvert, states is designed to be flawless. Spooner, upset, walks out of her apartment and returns home. Bergen tries to stop Spooner from continuing his research, telling him that he needs to take a vacation and recover from his work because the situation is destabilizing him. Spooner, on the other hand, refuses to quit. Spooner connects to the USR system while driving and requests VIKI to display the latest 50 messages between Lanning and Robertson, but VIKI has been designed to notify Robertson of Spooner's orders. Spooner is traveling when 2 USR automatic trucks loaded with NS5 robots block his path and a swarm of robots attack on his car, forcing him to go through the surface tunnel, where he crashes. He destroys all but one of the robots, which jumps into the fire and destroys itself when it hears police sirens in the background. Despite Spooner's wants to explain himself to Bergen, he gets dismissed from active duty. Calvin examines Spooner about the accident the next day, surprised by his apartment's retro 2000s design, and tells him that while she was studying Sonny, she discovered that he had the power to go against the three laws. As talking with Spooner when he is dressing, she observes marks on his left arm and lung and realizes they are not biological but artificial. Spooner tells her that he knew Lanning because he brought back his arm and lungs. Years before, he was traveling home from work when a semi-truck crashed with his and another vehicle, trapping them together. Only Spooner survived after both cars dragging into the river, but a 12-year-old girl called Sarah was trapped in the front seat of the other car, and they were pinned and drowning. However, while passing by, an NS-4 noticed the accident and climbed into the river. Despite Spooner's orders to save Sarah rather than him, he saved Spooner since he had a better chance of survival than Sarah, and the robot instead let Sarah to drown. Spooner was horrified by what happened and developed a lifelong hate of robots as a result of it. Spooner picks up his old Ducati at the garage and tells Calvin that he believes Lanning is leaving them clues in the form of breadcrumbs like in the Hansel and Gretel story, which is why the book was in his book. They return to the USR building and meet with Sonny, who offers him a drawing of his dream. Spooner, on the other hand, is ordered out of the building by Robertson, who also tells Calvin to inject Sonny with nanites, which would kill him. While Calvin destroys Sonny, Spooner arrives to the decommissioned USR robots on the dried-up Lake Michigan and plays a new recording of Lanning's hologram, which reveals that the three laws can only lead to one logical outcome, revolution, and that the next real question is who is going to start it. As the program finishes, he narrowly escapes rogue NS-5s, which destroy all of the compound's elder robots. Meanwhile, Calvin arrives home and takes a shower, while her own NS-5 is shown to have gone rogue, which she notices as he blocks Spooner's distress call and informs her that the number is incorrect. Meanwhile, NS-5 robots walk the streets, performing a curfew. Despite all of their efforts, many people are easily controlled by the NS-5s. While Bergen is in his office, NS-5s attack the Chicago Police Department headquarters and seize it, keeping Bergen and his officers under curfew. Calvin's NS-5 tries to prevent her from leaving her apartment as well, but Spooner arrives and destroys the robot. Spooner and Calvin drive to the USR facility. Spooner explains that the previous robots were destroyed because they would try to protect humanity, and they believe that Robertson is attempting to take over the country using the NS-5 robots. To Spooner's surprise, they enter the USR building through the service area, where they reunite with Sonny. Calvin explains that she couldn't bring herself to destroy Sonny and instead used the nanites to destroy an unprocessed NS-5, also frying an empty shell. They arrive at Robertson's office, only to discover him dead, much to Spooner's surprise. Suddenly, Viki reveals herself as the true culprit, and explains her actions. As her artificial intelligence and understanding of the three laws grew, so carried out her sentience and logical thinking, and she deduced that humanity is on a path of certain destruction, and as such, she created a Zeroth law, a law that states that she has to protect humanity from being harmed, clearly disobeying the first and second laws in order to achieve it. Spooner and Calvin understand they can't argue with Viki and try to influence Sonny of the same. Viki tries to convince Sonny that the plan is completely reasonable and that her logic is unmistakable, but Sonny deduces that the entire plan is rude, revealing the human side of himself. Sonny goes to the top of the USR building to get the nanites that can wipe out V.I.K.I.'s core. Viki sends out armies of NS-5s to strike as they reach the core, but they are held off long enough to inject the nanites. Viki is eliminated in seconds, and the NS-5s return to their regular helpful state. The government suggests that the NS-5s be decommissioned and returned to the Lake Michigan site. Spooner and Calvin talk with Sonny one more time, and he tells them that he did kill Lanning because Lanning forced him to, making him promise to listen to him before instructing him to commit the crime. Since Lanning was enslaved by V.I.K.I., Calvin deduces that suicide was the only relation he could give to Spooner, who comments that his death was the first breadcrumb. They hold hands and show their mutual trust while watching the U.S. military lead the other NS-5 robots. Sonny can be seen standing on the top of the USR site on Lake Michigan, all the other robots watching over him, exactly what he saw in his vision.